First Coast's most accurate forecast from the First Coast News Weather Team, certified by Weather Rate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Good evening, folks. I am meteorologist Ross Mumal with a First Coast News weather update on the winter storm that has now reached our doorstep, especially up across inland southeast Georgia. Counties like Ware, Pierce, northern Charlton County, Brantley County, and even northern Columbia, Baker County starting to see a little bit of some wintry precipitation. So I shouldn't say unprecedented, but potentially historic system making its way across the Gulf Coast, the deep southeast, and now here across the First Coast. Now, winter storm warning in effect for nearly all of us besides St. Johns County and eastern Putnam County. And what that means is you really just need to prepare for some level of impacts, either from the snow, the sleet, or the freezing rain overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning. So if you're in the pink, be prepared to be impacted by some level of freezing precipitation. If you're just in that winter weather advisory or winter storm advisory, that just means you might see some ice pellets or some snowflakes, but we are not expecting, really any impacts to travel or safety, at least in those winter weather advisory locations. But here's a live look at the latest radar. So most of Duval County and Jacksonville, we have been stuck in the rain, a cold, dreary, miserable rain all evening. It's actually coming down fairly steady outside right now, but up north is where a lot of the snow, sleet, and freezing rain, really just kind of a mess, is making its way through. And that is where surface temperatures themselves are right around that freezing point. So from St. Simons Island in Camden County to Brunswick, all the way over to Waycross, temperatures right around freezing, if not just 1 degree below. So surface temperatures are cold enough to sustain some sort of frozen precipitation. Or if the air aloft is a little bit warmer and it falls as just rain, once it hits the surface, it is cold enough to freeze on contact. So ice accumulation will be possible in some of those locations, as well as in Lake City. I see they're also at 32 degrees. Now, Jacksonville only at 34, so we're still 2 degrees away from having any of that icy mess reach us here. And some of that is because the dew points actually rose the last several hours and into this evening. That temperature and the dew point will eventually reach each other. So as long as the dew point stays above freezing, you're safe. Your temperature's not going to dip below that. Unfortunately for Jacksonville, now you see the dew point's 30 degrees. So the air temperature itself, it does have the potential to dip down to at least 30, which means we could see potentially all levels of frozen precipitation here across the First Coast. Another aspect to this whole thing tonight are the breezy northerly winds, anywhere from about 10 to 20 miles per hour. You got 24 miles per hour there. NAS Jax sped up a little bit because it's right over right beside the St. Johns River. But it is breezy. Temperatures are in the low 30s. You factor all that together, wind chills are just miserable. Mid-20s for most of us. Feels like 25 in Jacksonville right now. 22 in St. Simons Island. By Florida and Georgia standards, that is terrible. You do not want to see that here at all. Now, you look out a little bit further west. Now, these are back to current temperatures for places like Gulfport, Mississippi, Mobile, Alabama, Pensacola. We're in the mid-20s there, and their temperatures are so cold because they've actually seen a good bit of snow, actually historic snowfall for a lot of locations. I actually want to read a couple of these off to you. Pensacola itself has picked up over 6.5 inches of snow so far here today. Now, it is still snowing there. It's not nearly as heavy as it was, but 6.5 inches more than is double what their old record was, which was just 3 inches set back in 1895. And yeah, these are live pictures or live video from Pensacola there in Escambia County. So roads, overpasses, highways coated and that white fluffy powder, all that snow, a 130-year-old record crushed with over 6.5 inches there in Pensacola. Even further west from there, New Orleans, portions of the French Quarter in New Orleans have picked up 10, 11, 12 inches of snow locally in some spots, making it the snowiest day in New Orleans in well over a century. So this is a once-in-a-lifetime snow event for many places, from Louisiana through Mississippi, southern Alabama, and now also here to the Floridian Panhandle, and really all across the deep south here. So snow continuing to fall there. That will gradually begin to dissipate over about the next 60 minutes as the system continues to pick up steam and push off to the east. But this is a live video sent in by Gordy Blackmare from Gulf Breeze, Florida. So this is just a few miles south of Pensacola. Not only snowing heavily, but blowing snow as well. Winds over there were also 20 to 25 mile per hour gusts. So a wintry wonderland snow globe over in Pensacola earlier this afternoon, and that is reaching some of our locations now here tonight. That dark blue that you see, that is generally frozen precipitation, meaning either a sleet or a snow. The dark purple also means sleet, but that pink shaded is much more of the freezing rain potential, and then obviously just plain old rain in the green and the yellow as a typical radar would show. So Waycross has continued to see snow here over the past several hours. We'll have a live look there in just a second. First, I want to show you a couple different videos. This is in from meteorologist Lee Southwick. Her and meteorologist Robert Speta. They will be live tomorrow morning on Good Morning Jacksonville, giving you all the latest details on the current weather conditions in Waycross. So this is a video from their hotel. Beautiful American flag just billowing in the breeze, snow coming down pretty steady there. And then our photojournalist, Lexi, she got this beautiful slow-mo snow shot of the snow coming down in Waycross. You can see it's starting to lay a little bit on the grass, not so much on the roadways so far. So that is some good news. Just looks like some wet roads, but grass is starting to get covered at least a little bit as those flakes begin to come down. And then my producer, Andy, behind the camera, he's going to pull up a live picture from Waycross right now. Lexi and reporter Riley Phillips are live there tonight. They'll have an update for us coming up on the 11 o'clock news on First Coast News. Riley texted me just a couple minutes ago. It's now kind of switched over to a freezing rain, which is not good news at all. In these situations, you'd much rather see snow rather than freezing rain because, again, at the start of this, I showed you it's about 32 degrees exactly in Waycross. So as soon as that rain hits the ground, it certainly has the chance to freeze. If those temperatures drop any more than about 1 degree, things will really begin to ice up there in the Waycross area. So freezing rain, some sleet. Again, it was snowing in Waycross earlier. All of that will eventually work its way towards Jacksonville as that warmer air aloft in the atmosphere begins to erode a little bit, as does the temperatures at the surface. They will also continue to drop down into the low 30s and potentially even upper 20s overnight and really near dawn tomorrow morning. But at least for the time being, we've just got a very steady, cold, miserable rain making its way through the rest of the First Coast. So from Palm Coast to St. Augustine to McClenny, Green Cove, Jacksonville, Fernandina Beach, we're all just seeing a very cold rain. But this is what we're expecting over the rest of this evening and the next couple of hours. Now, it shows that pink really dropping south quite substantially. I think that's probably overdone just a little bit, especially with surface temperatures still a few degrees above freezing. But really the best chance to begin to see some of the mixing, meaning that freezing rain and sleet moving in, that will start likely after midnight for most of Duval County and the Jacksonville area, because after midnight, you notice right there, we hit 32 degrees in Jacksonville. Similar story in Lake City, St. Simon's Island, 31 into the upper 20s for Waycross. So really the worst of it is going to start to occur after midnight. That will continue through the overnight period and then into early tomorrow morning. Snow begins to taper off first across many of our inland southeast Georgia counties. Freezing rain potentially and some sleet even continues on from Lake City through Baker, Nassau, Union, Bradford, western and central Duval County, Clay County even, until I'd say about 7 to 8 a.m. After that point, everything begins to clear on out. But even after the precipitation comes to an end, any wet surfaces, those wet roadways and overpasses, you notice temperatures are still going to be below freezing. So you will have to be mindful of and watch out for black ice to potentially begin to develop because, you know, as the temperatures drop, any moisture on the roads will begin to freeze up and will certainly make things very treacherous for people. So we'll talk about the ice accumulations here in a second. This is what we are expecting snow totals wise. 2 to 4 inches, I think, is the maximum for far northern Pierce and Ware County. Much likelier, closer to about 1 to 2 inches for the Waycross area. And then about a trace of snow to about upwards of 1 inch for places like Folkston, Hilliard, much of Camden County, northern Baker and Columbia County as well. This does also factor in the sleet in with the snow. So this is really just expected frozen precipitation falling from the sky. I think a lot of folks could see some wet snowflakes, but not necessarily see any accumulation with them overnight and into tomorrow morning. But this is really the key story is going to be how much ice we actually see accumulate. A glaze to about 1/10 of an inch for that lighter shade of pink, that minor area. But really, the bullseye that we could potentially see develop will pretty much be from Lake City up through Baker County, northern Charlton, western Nassau County, in that brighter pink shaded area. That's when your roads are not only going to be very icy, but the bridges, overpasses, those trees, especially ones that already have or still have leaves on them, your palm trees, you add an extra 1/10 of an inch of ice, that starts to bring those branches down onto power lines, causing power outages. Or the ice itself on the power lines also adds a lot of weight, especially once you get over about that 1/10 of an inch. So 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch, that really starts to weigh down those power lines. So if you're in that pink shaded area, the dark pink area, be prepared for the potential to see some power outages early tomorrow morning. I talked about the bridges and the roadways freezing over. We kind of wanted to give you an idea of what the bridge conditions will likely look like tomorrow morning, in which the best ones will be to take if you do have to cross one on your morning commute. The Main Street, Fuller Warren, I-95 bridge, and the Buckman Bridge all should be all right, primarily because they're going to be a little bit lower, whereas the Acosta, Hart, Matthews, and Dames Point, all slightly higher bridges. I would try to plan an alternate route if you can to not take those. Those will be the first surfaces that freeze over because you have that cold air blowing in underneath the bridge. So it's just surrounded by cold air, whereas the ground is not that case. So we will update this accordingly as the rain and the freezing rain develops and the sleet, as those conditions potentially worsen. We'll update this. This is a live look at the Buckman Bridge. It's just wet roadways out there now, but as that temperature begins to drop, all those wet surfaces do have the potential to freeze. So you're just going to have to take it very, very slow out on the roadways tomorrow night. Or tonight, excuse me, and into tomorrow morning. I want to take us around just county by county here real quick, just so everyone gets a chance to look, depending on where you live, at what you can expect. So we've already shown Waycross, northern part of the Okefenokee. You've already had snow. You've had sleet reported. Now you're beginning to see freezing rain. This will probably be the best chance to see accumulating snowfall, and also does have the potential for things to ice up and for some of those power outages to develop. Similar story for Glenn, Camden, Nassau, Charlton counties. I think the chance for snow will be less, likely a better chance to see sleet, if not some freezing rain as well. Wind gusts anywhere from 20 to 30 miles per hour, if not even more than that, especially along those coastal areas. So the beaches, the inlets, and the intercoastal regions. Similar story though. Watch out for the icy bridges, those overpasses, and back roads as well, especially in some of the more rural areas, roadways that are not treated. You will definitely need to be very, very cautious and mindful of ice beginning to develop. Now, going to head out straight out I-10, our western areas, Columbia, Baker, Union, Bradford. Rain to an ice mix overnight tonight, so the ice really won't begin to develop likely until after about midnight to 1 a.m. Some flurries will work in early tomorrow morning, but not too concerned about the snow. A very similar story for Duval County then as well. I think coastal spots out towards the beaches, you're really just going to see a very, very cold rain, perhaps 1 or 2 snowflakes early tomorrow morning, but really it's going to be from downtown to the west and north that has the best chance to see freezing rain and sleet, and for roadways and bridges to really ice up. The further south you go then, conditions really shouldn't be as bad. West of Highway 17 in Clay and Putnam County have a chance to see some freezing rain and icing. If you live east of Highway 17 out along the St. Johns River, or you're in St. Johns County, like my man Anthony Austin is over there, you should be all right. I would say the only thing you might have to watch for is as those temperatures drop, I think temperatures down across most of Putnam and St. Johns County will stay just above freezing. But if they do dip below. Roadways are still going to be wet. We're going to pick up quite a good bit of rain here tonight. You will definitely need to be mindful of black ice developing very early tomorrow morning. So if you do have to be out and about tomorrow at all, if you can't stay at home or work remotely from home, just keep a very close eye on the roadways. They typically just kind of look like shiny, wet spots out there. They're hard to see. It's a very thin, very transparent layer of ice. Just kind of softly pump your brakes and take it a little bit slower out there on the road. So here's another look at the live radar. As I said, Anthony has joined me in here now.
Hello,
Anthony.
Ross.
How are you? That's a beautiful jacket.
Oh, thank you. I had to pull out my jacket just like yours. This is
Always want to match me, I see.
This is what we wear to stay warm in the newsroom. Not on air though, but we gotta stay warm in here. It's like an Arctic blast in here.
I heard you've got some questions for me.
I am trying to get some questions for you. So yeah.
Now, are these your questions?
These are not my questions.
These are from other people?
These are people who are watching right now. I want to ask your questions, so put them in the chat, and I'll ask them for you. I know some of this, I'm joining late, so I'm sure you've probably already discussed some of this, but even for some of our viewers who are just now jumping on, Nikisa wants to know, how long are these conditions expected to last?
Does it say where she's living?
Nikisa, where are you? I actually meant to ask her that.
Okay, well, so overall, if you live around the Jacksonville metro area, anything that freezes will likely last until about mid-morning tomorrow. So I'd say 10, 11 a.m., and then after that point, you'll start to see some melting. Our high temperature for Jacksonville will be right around about 39 to 40 degrees tomorrow. So it's going to be a bitterly cold day and windy. It will take a few hours tomorrow morning to allow those temperatures to get above freezing and to see things melt. Now, if you live farther north in places that actually see either sleet accumulate or snow accumulate on the ground, that will drop your temperatures even further overnight, and it will take significantly longer tomorrow morning to get those temperatures above freezing to begin to see some melting. We're not expecting sunshine to really melt any of the surfaces tomorrow. We're going to stay mostly cloudy the majority of the day. So if you live up towards Waycross, the Okefenokee, it might not be until tomorrow afternoon until you really begin to see the thawing out process begin. But for Jacksonville and areas closer to the metro, probably about that 10 to 11 a.m. time frame.
And Addie is asking about snow in Jacksonville. We're probably not going to see any.
We won't see any accumulating snow. There's a very small chance, I'd say between about 5 and 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, we might see a few wet snowflakes, but that would be about it.
So yeah, Addie, if you want to go, she asked, what time do I need to check outside if I want to see snow in Jacksonville? So if you want to see some snowflakes between 5 and 7 a.m.
Yes, you'd have to set your alarm pretty early. And there's no guarantee. It might just be all freezing rain or sleet, and then you're just going to miss out on those extra, 2 or 3 hours of sleep that you could have gotten.
We have Mitchon who's asking about Nassau County. Are they expected to only see freezing rain?
Where in Nassau County?
We're in Nassau County, if you are able to answer that for me.
Okay, so coastal Nassau, if you live over by Fernandina Beach and Amelia Island, really just a cold rain, potentially some freezing rain. Now, if you live further west over towards Hilliard, so the western half of Nassau County, you have the chance to see not only the rain that we're currently experiencing, freezing rain, sleet, and I do think some wet snowflakes will mix in on the backside early tomorrow morning. You'll have a better chance to see snow in western Nassau than we do here in Jacksonville. Will it accumulate? Probably not. It might just leave kind of a coating of snow on the ground at best. But coastal Nassau, just rain and maybe some freezing rain here overnight and tomorrow morning.
Yeah, everybody's upset that we're not seeing any snow here in Jacksonville. I'm sorry.
They want us to be like Pensacola and like the Panhandle.
I know
they want the 5, 6, 7 inches of snow.
I think people are a little jealous of all the snow fun that they're having over there on the Panhandle. Yeah, the closest place, if you want to go to Waycross, Georgia, if you want to pack up and drive up there, you can see some snow.
Well, and actually, Anthony, my barber told me yesterday that he was on a Facebook group that they said there was like a whole bunch of people planning on driving up to Waycross to see the snow. I didn't know that was a thing that a lot of Floridians do. I guess since you don't typically or ever see it here,
Right.
it's a rare event. You got to go.
Yeah, I've heard of a lot of
But-
people packing up the kids and heading up there so they can see snow. As a native Texan, I've experienced all the seasons, so I was able to see snow and a lot of ice where I grew up.
Yeah.
So this is not too unusual, but I forget about all the people who have only lived here in Florida. This is a very rare event, so I get that for you. Let's see what other questions we have. We have some people asking about... Let's see, we have Michelle asking about Bradford and Union counties. I know you just did the your county by county forecast over there.
Yeah, so Union and Bradford, the snow chance is at a minimum, but you do have the potential to see a good amount of freezing rain and or sleet, some of which could be pretty significant totals wise. So I think 1/10 of an inch of ice is very possible in both Union and Bradford, potentially upwards of 1/4 of an inch of ice, especially in the northern parts of those counties, so northern Union and Bradford County. That could lead to power outages in those areas if the ice does accumulate that far.
I'm saying Emily just wrote no power in Orange Park off of Moody. You know what could be the reason behind that? Could it be the wind?
I mean, our wind gusts aren't substantial. We've had wind gusts like 30 to 35 in some spots. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're just seeing a cold rain in Orange Park. I mean, it's cold and windy. So I'm not sure if that's weather related or if there's something else going on.
Yeah, I have to check into that. Let's see. I also saw someone, I think this is a little bit, I think somebody was asking about Taylor County. Dixie or Taylor County getting anything. That's not our viewing area.
No, that's further south, isn't it?
Yeah, that's further south. I think. Let's see. What other questions do we have?
Andy, can we pull back up that video of Pensacola quick? You can, if you
There
look
we go.
close at the camera on the left, maybe not so much now. The snow is blowing across the road pretty significantly. You can see the cars are making it through all right, but for the most part, the highways are completely barren. So that's at least good to see that, folks are heeding caution and not going out onto the roads. Again, this is an area that picked up nearly a half foot of snow today. Now, the snow itself is coming to an end, but blowing snow will be a concern in some of those locations and could be in Waycross. If you get at least 2 to 3 inches up there, the winds will still be gusty out of the north, 10 to 20. So blowing snow might be a concern early tomorrow morning as well.
And Ross, did you mention up there in the Panhandle? Ross told me a little fact today that the last time this happened was back in 1895, and they only got 3 inches of snow.
Yeah.
In the Panhandle, 1895. So this is indeed a historic event, I guess you can say.
Yeah, I mentioned New Orleans. Some locations there in the French Quarter picked up almost a full foot of snow. I have never heard of that.
Me either.
And talking with people in the National Weather Service office in New Orleans, they've said this is the most snow that they have seen in over a century. So a very historic event, a once-in-a-lifetime event for a lot of folks there across the Gulf Coast.
People asking about St. Johns County. I know you just talked about that. I live in St. Johns County as well. We're not going to really see much of...
No, it should be
Anything,
primarily just a very cold rain. That's why St. Johns County schools are still open tomorrow, right, Anthony?
Yep, they're still open tomorrow.
Yeah. On the back side of this, so right around 6 to 7 a.m., there might be a small amount of some frozen ice pellets in the form of sleet or some very wet snowflakes. But for the most part, temperatures should stay just above freezing at the surface and aloft in the atmosphere. More importantly, there will be a warm nose that should keep any real significant frozen precipitation from actually falling in St. Johns County. So most of St. John's should be just a little bit too warm for any of that.
Have a few people asking about Baker County, what they can expect to see there. And also, somebody just asked about Yulee. Yulee is in Nassau County.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Baker.
So Baker, I kind of talked about the potential for a bullseye of ice accumulation. So really from Lake City over through Baker County, McClenny, the Sanderson area, southern Charlton and Ware counties. That's where you could see a significant amount of freezing rain and or sleet, at least based off of what some of the model runs have shown over the last really about 2 days. We'll watch for heavy precipitation bands moving through there. They could have an extended period of freezing rain and sleet. So because of that, ice accumulations could get up to at least 1/10 of an inch, with the potential or possibility to see close to a quarter. And that is when you're going to see significant travel impacts. Roads will be very icy. The bridges, the overpasses will be incredibly treacherous to drive over, as will all those back roads and things like that in those areas. So could be one of our harder hit spots here, Anthony, Baker County.
We're talking about power outages happening in Orange Park off of Moody Avenue. I think we actually have the outage map that we can pull up right now. So it looks like there's 243 customers affected. Estimated restoration time 11:17. So I don't know.
So that looks like a very isolated event.
Yeah, it does. And I don't know if they have on there what the issue is. I don't know if you can look at that.
No, they don't.
They don't. Okay. So it looks like they have a crew assigned. So if you're without power there in Clay County, it looks like they are working on getting you power, but just 243 customers affected by this right now.
Now, I will say, actually, Andy, can you pop that back up real fast? So it may not be weather related at all, but one thing you might want to keep in mind, we picked up a lot of rain on Sunday.
Yeah.
And it was about 2 to 4 inches for some folks. So the ground is very saturated, and we have had some isolated wind gusts of 30 to 35. So there is the potential that maybe a tree or something, came down just because the ground was so wet and the roots were a little bit loose. That's more so just me speculating than anything. But that could be a possibility since it's such an isolated spot. It's hard to say.
I have to agree. I think that's probably the cause. Let's see. What other questions do we have here? There is snowing in Pierce County right now.
Yep.
Janet, send us some pictures if you can. We would love to see the snow that you're seeing out there in Pierce County.
Andy, do we still have the live shot from Waycross? Okay. So just south of Pierce County there in Waycross, they were seeing freezing rain for a little bit, but yeah, it looks like at least from there, they're certainly seeing some snow, and that rain-snow line will slowly work its way further south here, Anthony.
What are they seeing in Brunswick right now? That's also another question I keep.
Brunswick is kind of a mix of a cold rain and freezing rain. Surface temperatures are right around 32 to 31 degrees. So my assumption would be primarily freezing rain.
Also saw questions about the west side of Jacksonville. One thing I do know about the west side, I think there's chances of black ice out there, so they need to be careful driving.
Yes. Now, the black ice probably won't occur until early tomorrow morning, but yes, the west side of Jacksonville certainly has the chance to see some very icy roads early tomorrow morning. I want to just back this up to see. Let's see. Oh. There we go. Yeah, Brunswick is primarily seeing freezing rain. There might be some sleet and wet snowflakes mixing in, at least on the north sides there.
Okay.
What a mess. A lot of colors, Anthony, but that's
of
typically not a
colors.
good sign.
I was sending Janet, she wanted to know where to send pictures. I said she could send them to news@firstcoastnews.com. Any of you who might have pictures, video of what you're seeing in your area, feel free to send it to us. Once again, that's news@firstcoastnews.com. Let's see what else are we seeing here? People are asking about bridges again. So Ace wants to know, what is the situation with the Buckman? The Buckman is one that there is a chance. There's not a chance.
Well, I mean, do they all have a chance?
Right,
yes.
right.
But if you have to choose the best ones, the best three are either the Main Street Bridge, the Buckman, or the Fuller Warren. Those will be your best bridges to cross, primarily because they're a little flatter and lower to the river.
Gotcha. Mandarin, do they have any chance of black ice? I don't think so because of
it would be
I
don't expect it would be a very small chance, only about maybe 20% chance of black ice. Temperatures should stay just above freezing tomorrow morning, that you shouldn't have to worry about black ice developing. But we'll have to see how far those freezing temperatures sag southward. We don't expect them to go that far, but the chance isn't zero. So it is something you need to be just mindful of, but not necessarily anticipate occurring.
Andrew Badillo wants to know what color the snow will be. We know, Andrew.
Oh, one of our old reporters
Yep,
here.
yep. So
Hello,
we
Andrew.
think he knows the answer. In fact, Andrew needs to come back to Florida. He can help report on.
He should
the
be
weather
he should be a
situation.
specialist on this. He's
He
living up
should
there
be. I know
in
he's
North
up north
Jersey
right now. He's in Jersey.
He should know
What
all
is-
about the snow, that rain snow line, all that slush up there
Yep.
in North Jersey.
Somebody's asking, oh, what about the Blue Bridge? That's the Hart Bridge.
Yeah, the Hart Bridge could ice over.
Yep, that could in Kingsland, Georgia. Where are they seeing in Kingsland?
Currently, what are they seeing in Kingsland?
Yeah.
So it's really just a cold rain. I don't have an exact temperature for Kingsland, but based off of what it was in St. Simon's Island, I believe it was 31 or 32 degrees. So inland from there, it would probably be a similar story. So either just a very cold rain or freezing rain would start falling here very shortly. But it does not look like the snow and or sleet has made it that far south to Kingsland just yet.
Let's see. Nocatee area. Charlotte says people have been telling her that they're going to get snow and freezing rain in Nocatee.
And who was telling her that?
I
Anthony?
don't know. I'm pretty sure it's probably some.
She's got some wrong sources.
Yeah, that's. I don't think that's right.
Yeah, we're not expecting any snow in Nocatee. On the backside tomorrow morning, I've said this a couple times now, there might be just a few ice pellets or wet snowflakes that would be very, very light. It would be right around maybe 6 a.m., 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, but not enough to cause any impact. So you might be able to look up out at the sky for 30 seconds and see them, but that would be about it. So yeah, we're not expecting wintry precipitation to fall in Nocatee.
Yeah, Bay Meadows. Gus is asking. That's the south side
Yep.
of Jacksonville. You should be okay.
Yes, for the most part. I think you're going to be very, very close. I think areas south of Bay Meadows should be completely all right. Bay Meadows really might be that cutoff line, of where you either see just very wet roads or, you see that ice really begin to develop on the roadways and the bridges and things like that.
Did we talk about Middleburg? I can't remember if I asked you. Bruce is asking right now.
We have not talked about
okay.
Middleburg. Just a very, very cold rain right now. I think tomorrow morning, or really after about 2, 3 a.m., freezing rain will develop in Middleburg. There will be the chance for some sleet as well. I do not expect any snow in Middleburg, but I shouldn't say a good spot, but a likely spot for ice accumulation to develop upwards of at least 1/10 of an inch, potentially more than that. So similar to Baker County, Middleburg and Clay County could be another one of those areas that could get hit substantially with regards to the ice accumulation and those icy surfaces tomorrow morning.
Somebody just said that they were getting snow off of Old Middleburg Road, but I'm not sure if that's what Florentino was saying.
Pop the radar back up here quick. Let me I have all of these in a certain order, so you have to give me a second to click through. These are all videos from Waycross again, so yeah, that all just looks like rain to me.
Yeah, that's what I think. It's probably just rain. Don't think we have quite snow.
Now there will be some areas are a little misleading. So you look over in Lake City and western Baker County, it shows a little bit of some snow and or freezing rain. That could primarily just be based off of some surface observations being fed into the radar system itself. What I mean to say is, for the most part, that is not snow falling. It is rain. Temperatures there are very, very close to 32 degrees. So it's the radar trying to figure out, is it just rain? Is it freezing rain? So it's kind of right on that razor's edge of one way or the other. So did that make sense to you, Anthony?
Yep, I think that made sense.
Okay.
I got it. All right, we have, I think a lot of people, you're going to be back at 10 o'clock with another update, right?
I will, yep.
Okay. So, yeah, you guys who are kind of wondering about your particular county, Ross is going to be back at 10 o'clock. He's going to go county by county about exactly kind of what you're seeing in the area at this hour and then what we can kind of expect to a little bit later.
Yeah, so we'll break it down county by county. Again, right now, we just have rain moving through downtown Jacksonville and all of Duval County. Anthony, you went out for dinner.
I went out for dinner. It was not.
It did not feel nice.
It was not a pleasant experience. I like the cold weather, but the rain, the cold, and the wind, No, thank you. Glad to be back on the inside.
Yeah, well, that's why we both have the coats on, right?
Exactly. Shout out to our reporters who are outside right now, by the way, too.
Yes. So if you don't have to get out onto the roads, I urge you not to, either tonight or early tomorrow morning. But as Anthony said, I'll have another update for you coming up in just under a half an hour here now. So at 10 o'clock, I'll have more for you. But for now, he is Anthony Austin. I am meteorologist Ross Mumal. Stay warm, stay safe, and take care for now.